back to Crusaders Live here with Coach Frazier again. Coach, congratulations on the Week 1 win.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
This week we got Highland. So just Stephen Brown had a great week last week. 159 yards, 3 touchdowns. Our ground game as a whole with Jaden Ellington, he had a couple rushing touchdowns himself too. I thought our ground game was really good. What was working for us there?
Yeah, I think Coach Geddes and the offensive staff did a good job. Alden primarily stayed in a 2 high shell defense, so it's light in the box, dictates run the ball, and that's why Stephen and Jaden had such big games. And, it's nice to get those guys in space and get a good start in Week 1 for them.
Yeah, 1 touchdown game and a half. What changed the second half? What was the message to the team in the locker room?
Yeah, we made some mistakes defensively that elongated drives. And give all them credit. They're a much improved football team from the year prior. It's night and day. So give them credit. But we made some mistakes defensively that elongated drives that did not get our offense back on the field. So I think we only stalled once in the first half. So I think that contributed to it, right? And then look, when we talked, I said we're kind of young and we're going to make some mistakes for a little while here, and hopefully going from Week 1 to Week 2, we minimize some of those, and especially in third down, tackling and stuff. Just day one kind of fundamental stuff get better at.
Going away from the Alton game and now to tonight, what's your main message to your team? Playing Highland, who likes to run the ball and run a bunch of screens. What's just your main message?
Yeah. So the head coach, Coach Warnke's a good friend of mine, and our history goes back a ways now. We were coached under Jim Stiebel and his staff in modern day. So I know Highland well. We work with them in the summer. We practice with those guys. We're gonna have to be disciplined. I think we have some plus athletes in some spots that we can give them trouble both offensively and defensively, but that only goes so far if we're not going to be disciplined with our eyes and how we're going to execute individual technique based on what we're going to see. So Highland characteristically generally is always a real disciplined group, doesn't make a ton of mistakes, tries to confuse you guys us a little bit with shifts and motions and unbalanced looks. So for all the speed and some of the things maybe we have, we're going to have to be really mentally sharp to make sure that we're going to come out ahead of this one.
We brought up Stephen Brown and Jaden Ellington. What do you expect out of them this week on the offensive side?
Yeah, continuance of them doing big things, right? Like that. They are. The offensive line is the engine that drives this whole thing, and those are the flashy parts that get to the notoriety. But as long as those two are sticking again to executing what's available based on box presentation and what the secondary looks like, I see no reason why they wouldn't continue to have big leagues.
I think Logan Thompson's great in space. How do you find better ways to get him in space this week?
Yeah, something we got to do. Even if there are 2 high shell, right, we're having a tough time getting him vertical. We got to get him in the jet game. We got to get him in the screen game. And he was kind of banged up a little bit coming into the season, so he'll come back and play defense for us. He'll be back at corner, which I think he might end up a corner in college. So he's certainly somebody that we're going to look to get the ball to early and really kind of stress them horizontally and vertically in the offensive game.
And then as far as on the defensive side for tonight, me and AB were looking at some of the game film and things like that. Number 13 for Highland, Carter Harris, who seemed to be their main focal point against Jacksonville. What's your game plan? Because we saw most of the time they were stretching the runs outside of the box. So how do you plan for something like that?
Yeah, man, the kid's a good back, right? Sophomore, and with him paired with Jelly, their quarterback, he's a good runner himself. 5'8", 185 pounds. Kind of runs like a fullback with his quarterback, right? So it's a good 1-2 punch combo in their run game, and that 13 can certainly stretch you horizontally. So it all comes down to gap responsibility and then reestablishing line of scrimmage, right? Like if they're going to move us off our mark and push us vertical in those zone looks, we're gonna have problems. If we move them off theirs, they'll be pretty successful.
What does the matchup in the O line and the D line look like today?
Well, I think the plus side for us is we're pretty much two platoon on that side of the game. Our offensive linemen played just offensive line for the most part.
Yeah.
And our defensive line played just defensive line. So they're not like that.
Okay.
Right. So hopefully, our conditioning and then only going one way is going to allow us to kind of have an edge when the second half comes.
And then I got a question. I heard around injury report that Lonnie's back tonight. Is that true?
Cannot confirm. Cannot confirm.
If he is, what does that bring to the team?
Well, yeah, he's a Division I offensive or defensive lineman. Yeah, he carries a Miami, Ohio offer and a Troy offer, I think. We're really excited about the potential of having him, whether that's today or not or whatever. But we like what we see from him. One of the stronger, maybe the strongest junior football player I've been around. And saying something because I've seen some news. But
No.
Matt. Well, we'll let those two duel it out. But really excited to see him on the field when that time comes.
Yeah.
So
Guess you'll have to come and see.
yeah, we got a game tonight
You
too.
can't come and see.
Yeah. So last week we had Player of the Week, offensive and defensive.
Yeah.
Eli Bolden, I thought he was great. I know he made two good catches. The one that the lob that Jaden threw to him, and he kind of over the shoulder, he just went and got it. What does it mean to have him as kind of wide receiver 2, even though
Right.
behind Logan? You guys are really deep in the skilled positions.
Yeah. No, that's something we talked about last week. We're 6-7 deep at receiver that we like, and having Eli and Logan on the outsides. There's not a lot of high school football teams that have good two good DBs, much less a locked out one that has to play press. So they're certainly whoever's we're going to play against, they're going to struggle. Figure out how they want to stop either one of those sides of the field. So that was a highlight reel catch. It made the rounds. It was fun to watch. But I would have liked a couple more catches since that was my pick to click. But we'll take it.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, when do you stop celebrating and when do you focus on the next game?
That night, that's to be celebrated, right? It's
Yeah.
to be celebrated with the team. It's to be celebrated with the community at large, families, right? That's why we go down to the tailgate and we celebrate each other. Then the next morning, 9 a.m., when we come back for training and/or JV practice, that flips and switches. Now it's time to start worrying about next week. Season's short. You work all year long for 9 weeks that are only 9 are guaranteed. So gotta move on pretty quickly.
Talking about tonight, who's your 2 guys offensively and defensively to
2 each. Tonight, boy. Let me go. I'll go Logan Thompson on offense. Then let me go. I'm not a wild card pick, but why not? I'm going to go Deontay Woods on defense. And he's had some good practices. He's climbed his way into the starting role this week. So we'll see if that success continues.
You mentioned a slow start last week. What's the message to the guys this week? Come out hot, maybe get them out of their game in the first half.
Yeah, again, Coach Schott, a guy who was here a long time, always said the biggest improvement from any team is from week 1 to week 2 in high school football, maybe football or college to pro. So I'm just looking for improvement across the board, just in our fundamentals, right? Our understanding of what we're supposed to be doing on any given play, right? Just like day 1 focus stuff. I think if we do that, then we'll be a tough group to handle. But that's easy to say, hard to do. Right? We'll see.
I just got one more question for you, Coach. Last week it felt like Jaden didn't have much time to throw. How do we kind of get him more time so he can find Logan and those
especially against 4-man pass rush, we have to be able to protect against it. And there's some of it's tech stuff. We had a couple just missed pros, right? Like where there's miscommunication where we slid incorrectly, right? So, whether it's the mental side where we just blew a call, or physical deficiency where we got lazy in the set or we overset. You know, that happened a couple times. Those are things like we have to improve on because like especially in third down when it was third down and 7+, that's not something that we maybe execute as good as we did last year. And, you know, we're capable, we just maybe didn't have enough time.
Yeah, my last question is like, what's your biggest takeaway from last week that you can take into this week?
Yeah, like, well, we came away with a win, and there was a ton of, you know, deficient film, and we made a lot of mistakes. And that happens. I mean, most coaches are probably gonna say that after week 1, generally in high school football, but it was pretty glaring. So, you know, we win a game, but there's a ton of upside for growth, and seeing like, man, we can really be a lot better, but we have to take those steps and, you know, not even, you know, drink the Kool-Aid type of thing. Like, you won a game, who cares?
Yeah.
We have a lot to correct, and hopefully that shows, you know, the film after the game this week.
I'm good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck this week.
Good luck to you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.